grain sorghum futures basis contract to release on August 24th, 2026. If our strategy for marketing our crop is selling it for whatever the price happens to be at the time, we lose a lot of control over profitability. One of the ways that we can manage for that is by utilizing futures markets. In the spring, whenever we are planting, we'll be able to go short or sell, and then later in the year offset it whenever we're ready to take our harvested crop to the elevator. And by doing that, we'll be able to know what price do I need to pull the trigger at to make sure I'm putting myself in the best position to have a profitable crop. The point of the futures market is to mitigate price risk. Currently, there's a wide variety of different commodities that can be traded in the futures markets. One that has not been on the market since 1999 is grain sorghum. Grain sorghum is not our biggest crop here in Kansas, but Kansas is the biggest producer of grain sorghum. Since 1999, if someone wanted to utilize futures contracts to manage for price risk, they would have to hedge on the corn futures market. There are quite a few differences in not just how we produce MILO versus corn, but how we market MILO and corn. If we want to understand why grain sorghum basis contract is returning, it helps us to understand why it went away in the first place. One of the things that's discussed, something called a liquidity trap. There has to be enough trade happening in the system. In 1999, it was creating problems with traders. Is there enough market liquidity now to justify bringing grain sorghum back? Is not a grain sorghum futures contract per se. It's a grain sorghum futures basis contract. You are trading the price spread between corn and sorghum. 5 main reasons why grain sorghum futures contract is beneficial. Number 1, while corn production is ubiquitous, grain sorghum production is concentrated in the western grain belt. 2, MILO is a lot more dependent on rail transportation. 3, export demand for corn and sorghum is wildly different. 4, corn futures market does not allow producers to sufficiently manage for price risk that is unique to MILO production. 5, grain sorghum as a commodity just doesn't fit well within the corn market structure. Sign up for our next iteration of the Winning the Game Grain Marketing Workshop.